Hello, everybody. My name's James. Welcome to another Planet FPL clash of the correspondents. And as usual, I'm joined today by two of our correspondents looking ahead to a game at the weekend. Firstly, let me introduce you to our Everton correspondent, Sean Norton. How are you, Sean?
I'm good, James. Thank you.
Good man. And let me introduce you to our Norwich City correspondent, Mark Hammond. How are you, Mark?
Good, thank you. Not bad, you?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. If this podcast cuts out any second, we know it's Mark's fault because he spent about 20 minutes trying to sort out his Wi-Fi, but we think we're good to go now. Sean, let's start with yourself, my friend. Reasonable start for the season. I guess you must be happy overall with 10 points from 5.
Yeah, very happy. When you think back to the preview of the season, we sort of mapped out how it could go horribly wrong very quickly. And early on against Southampton, it looked like that might have been the case. But a fantastic turnaround to go on and win 3-1. And then, obviously going into the weekend, we were unbeaten. And we were playing some good stuff, playing some good football, not sort of dominating possession, etc., but really fast, effective, sort of counter-attacking football. Was better than a lot of what we saw, last season. So I think, Rafa's made a very quick and obvious impact on the team style of play. So to do that really early, and obviously the new lads that have come in a bit the ground running, it's been really good to see. And bar a mad 10 minutes against Aston Villa, it's all been very positive.
You could flip it though, and you could say bar a mad 10 minutes against Burnley, which turned the game. You might not come back and won that game. You obviously, as you alluded to, the Southampton game and the Burnley game, you put yourself in trouble twice. I think these are games that we spoke about so much over the last 18 months or so. You probably wouldn't have come back and won without the Goodison Park effect.
Yeah.
Do you look back on the 5 fixtures now though and go, look, 2 points per game, great, it's Champions League form. But do you look at them 5 fixtures back now and think, actually, that's what I'd expect from those 5 fixtures? You definitely want the 6 points from the 2 home games, wouldn't you? And then 4 points is kind of a part of course from the 3 away games, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're 2 really tough away games. I mean, Elland Road, now the fans are back. Leeds are a good side. I know that, they've been a bit more missed and hit so far this season, but still a tough place to go. I don't think too many clubs will go there and win. And Brighton, that was a tough place to go last season, and they've started really well. And we sort of comfortably beat Brighton as well. They never really felt in trouble at any point during the game. That was a cracking 3 points. So yeah, it kind of. I did feel like it would take some time to get the team to play how Rafa wanted them to play. So I was, sort of in my head, I was thinking we are going to drop some points that you would hope we wouldn't drop. But that hadn't happened. I mean, the game against Burnley, once we equalised and he put Gomez on and changed the formation. I mean, I know we scored 3 goals in sort of a few minutes, but we could have got about 6. They played really well as soon as he switched it. So yeah, points wise, we are where you'd hope that we would have been. But it just gives him a bit of breathing space.
Yeah, great.
So and that's exactly what we all needed. Unfortunately, we've amassed a shed load of injuries in a short space of time. So it's gonna be tricky to navigate through now in the next few weeks.
Yeah, we're going to come back to some of those injuries shortly. And for yourself, Mark, those first 4 fixtures we obviously spoke about in pre-season, it was like, right, season starts in game week 5. Anything you get in the first 4 is basically a bonus. I'll give you the big up last week saying, look, narrow defeats to Arsenal, Leicester, high hopes for Norwich at the weekend. You got well beat, didn't you?
Yeah, I was a bit worried as soon as you said you fancied Norwich for clean sheet. I thought
I'm deluded and lost my mind.
Well, yeah, I mean, I certainly was hopeful we'd at least compete and we'd be good enough, which we should be, having spent quite a bit of money in assembling a decent squad. We should be at the very least competing, in some of these games, which we haven't. And yeah, it's very concerning, I have to say. Like I say, Stuart Webber, sporting director, has done his job. He's given Farke a decent enough squad now, spent over £60 million and 10 permanent signings, 4 loan signings. On paper, it looks decent. It looks stronger than before, but there's certainly a worrying element to it, and sort of passive nature where alarm bells are ringing already, which is not good. You'd expect to lose to certainly Liverpool, Man City, and then the problem is against teams like Leicester and Arsenal, a lot of the other teams are capable of nicking a point. Take Southampton at the weekend at Man City. We wouldn't be capable of doing that, going there, keeping a clean sheet, because we can't get the basics of defending right. So whereas other teams are picking up odd points here and there and that, it's not, unfortunately, in our nature at the moment. And it seems to be a continuation from 2 seasons ago, basically where we are left off. It just seems like we're on a worrying sort of path now, and I don't know quite how or where it ends.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned a continuation from kind of that restart period, which was dreadful. I think it's 15 straight Premier League defeats in a row, which I can highlight why, because you haven't played Tottenham in that spell, mate. That's why you haven't got any positive results, which I'm guessing is your last positive result against the Premier League team, actually, in that FA Cup fifth round game at Tottenham.
Yeah. I mean, you can go even further, like rather than just look at the defeats. It's like it's now, I think I heard a stat, 30 odd games where in the Premier League where we've actually gone a goal behind and we haven't, been capable of getting an equaliser, and we've lost as soon as we've gone 1-0 down. So that it's a bit like we discussed before. It's the mentality thing. And then
you got back in the game at the weekend, Mark.
We did, and then again individual errors and
against Leicester you equalised.
Yeah, and we look good. I mean, 5-10 minutes we look okay in 5-10 minute patches, but the game don't last 5-10 minutes, unfortunately. And there's not long passes in the game before we're giving away chances. Some of the chances we're giving away, it's not just the possession and anything like that. It's obviously, we might go down the other end and miss a couple of chances, but then we're finished off by clinical attacks down the other end, and that's killing us at the minute.
You won't need me to tell you that most people already think you're done.
I'll get
5 games in because of the result at the weekend. Can you see it being turned around? I mean, it's 33 games to go, mate. Yeah,
it's very hard to say, isn't it? I think there's a good team in there somewhere. Definitely is a good team in there, because some of these names in our team, Billy Gilmore, high hopes for him. Chelsea fans didn't particularly want him to go out on loan. He looks like a ghost in the middle of the pitch. Brandon Williams, he had a good game at Arsenal, but in the 2 home games, he's been very poor. Max Aaron's he's been really off of it. So it's like, if you look at these individually, there's not loads that concerns me. I think we can put out.
Sounds very concerning based on what you just said, mate.
But exactly, it comes down to the sort of putting all the mix in and getting a team out of this lot. The style, the formation, the tactics. I see nothing at the moment. I don't know he certainly doesn't know what his best 11 is. I certainly don't know. But you look at it and think we should be doing a hell of a lot better.
Yeah, I want to come back onto that 11. Sean, certainly within the FPL community, there's already a lot of target Norwich. You haven't got any players that we can target them with, have you? Because of the injury situation?
No, I mean, I think obviously if you want to be on Demarai Gray or a Doucouré or a Townsend, then you'd obviously keep them for this game. I think if you don't own anyone, I don't really see. I think it's too big a risk to jump in on them because it's Man United straight after anyway. So you'd only be doing like a 1 week punt.
Well, there obviously will be a lot of people that are going to wildcard in Gameweek 7 because of Chelsea fixture swing and a few other teams. So, I mean, is someone like Rondon this week, is that insane for just the 1 week?
Well, it's not when you look at, we've been scoring goals, playing all right, playing like effective football. And obviously Norwich is struggling and conceding goals. So, there's logic there to it. But if against Aston Villa, there was a bit in the first half where Gray cut inside, flashes the ball across the goal. and Rondon. I mean, he wasn't far off it, but it kind of, in a way, felt like he was never going to get there.
Yeah. Benitez has said he's basically not fit yet as well.
Yeah, that's it. He's playing because he has to. He wouldn't have started that game. He'd got nowhere near. He might have got 10 minutes off the bench or something like that, maybe. So he's having to play, well before he's ready. And I just don't think he's anywhere up to speed. But also the way that we need to get the best out of Rondon is a little bit different to how we have been playing. Because, like I said, if Richie or Don were fit, they'd have been tapping that ball in against Villa.
Yeah, Rondon's more of a get it into him and get people to run off him. He's the sort of player I imagine if you can get the best out of him would maybe be good for a running player like Demarai, who's happy to go and run beyond and feed off the second balls. Whereas obviously the clear tactic in the first 3 or 4 games was let's get it into wide areas, let's get it onto Calvert-Lewin's head, or at least give him something to try and attack as quickly as possible. You were really unapologetic about it. I watched the game at Leeds. And it was every opportunity. Can we get it in the box? Can we get it in the box? And you probably got to play that game a little bit differently now because that incident you highlighted at Villa Park with Rondon, Calvert-Lewin scores there.
Yeah,
I think is the point. That's the difference because DCL's always looking for that. Can I be on the shoulder? Where's the dangerous? Calvert-Lewin's not one. When the ball goes into wide areas, he doesn't kind of pull off for players to think, if it pulls back to the penalty spot, he always goes into the place where it hurts. And that's what Everton have obviously been training towards over the last few weeks. I should clarify at this stage, we are pre-recording this on Tuesday prior to the Carabao Cup fixtures. Everton play at QPR. Mark's looking forward to playing Liverpool's reserves. I guess we won't dwell on it because it'll probably be weakened teams and stuff. But Sean, you obviously have got injury problems. How much, just beyond the Norwich fixture a little bit for the next few weeks, how much of a blow is it to be without Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison at the same time?
Oh, it's absolutely massive. It really is. So we've got it just massively affects our chances of getting any points in the next, the Norwich game at home and the Man United game away. But I think this game for Norwich it's just fallen perfectly for them. I mean, we were talking before we started recording about we do have this annoyingly very consistent knack of being able to help teams out when they need a bit of a helping hand. And this 15 game, straight losses streak that Norwich are on, it just smacks to me of, they'll end that at Goodison at the weekend. Because all the ingredients are there for them. They're going to be fired up. I'm sure they'll have got a flea in the ear off the manager, and they've got to react for the fans. And with our injury issues, it's just a perfect storm for me. I think it's going to be a really, really, really difficult game for us because, we're not creating a massively high volume of chances. I think we look threatening virtually every time we go forward, but it doesn't necessarily always result in a shot on target or a shot on goal. So I can see, with Norwich, especially with Gilmour, he played against us for Chelsea and he had an outstanding game. He is what Mark was saying before, he is a really good player. It just sounds like Norwich have maybe got too many new players and are struggling to find a way of playing. And the Premier League's the most punishing league that there is, isn't there? So I think the game against us could be perfect for them to just come, sit in, frustrate, because the crowd will just get anxious the longer the game goes on without us being ahead and knowing that we haven't really got anyone that can come off the bench and turn the game. The atmosphere is kind of I can see it just being quiet and play into Norwich's hands, and then especially if they nick a goal and take the lead, then it just builds, the pressure builds, and then that's when players start snatching at chances and stuff. So I do anticipate a really tricky game.
Mark was smiling away for the benefit of those on audio, smiling away through nearly all of that. It's like, fuck me, someone's giving me a chance.
I was just thinking of the last time we won at Everton. It was our only away win, wasn't it? It was
your best performance of the season, probably.
It was, and we hadn't won for 7 games then. So that's what I was thinking. We was on a terrible run. Yeah, you never know.
I mean, yeah, do you hear that? Does that give you confidence, Mark? Do you think, do you know what? Ordinarily, Everton now with the crowd back, etc., tough game. Do you look at it now and think, geez, without their 2 best defensive players, got to take advantage? and obviously without the goalkeeper and the right back as well.
Yeah, so I mean, if we are going to go to Everton and pick up anything, it's obviously now's a good time. Certainly not an easy fixture on paper, but I think I think patience is wearing a little bit thin down here with the manager, and obviously, like Sean says, they'd have actually got it on Saturday. They was in training on Sunday, so there's obviously they can't put in a performance like they did the weekend again. I don't think so. Yeah, certainly. I think they'll be fired up, and it just comes down to obviously the side he puts out and tactically trying to nick a 1-0. I think up there. I don't think whether we're capable of that or not, but obviously that's the best chance is just to did at Arsenal for the first half and just try and sort of stay in the game as long as we can, and then you never know.
How long, Mark, would it have to go on where I can hear myself repeating? That's really annoying. How far would it have to go on, Mark, before they looked at Daniel Farke and went, no, enough? Like if you've got 0 points from Everton, Burnley away, Brighton at home from 8 games, is that it? Does the decision have to be made?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, he's always been very secure, hasn't he? Because he's never had any money to play with. He's got promoted twice now. So, he's obviously held in high regard. But, you can't keep losing games of football. And we saw it last year with Sheffield United. They picked up 1 point from 13. And by the time they'd got picking up points and winning games, they was pretty much down, weren't they? So I think there's got to be an element of being awake to the danger where, like this can't continue. It certainly won't take much for it to turn. We was booed off on Saturday for the first time probably since 17-18 season. So yeah, it obviously is the players getting it initially, but the manager will certainly be next, I think, when it comes to people sort of venting their anger and that, because it's his team now and it's up to him to piece it together.
And unlike 2 years ago, as you already said, you have spent some money this time.
Absolutely.
2 years ago, you come up, didn't spend a penny. This time you've come up, you have spent a bit of cash. So it felt like the investment was there this time, whereas 2 years ago, it almost kind of felt like before it started, it was like, don't want to take the gamble in case we overspend and then go back down and get stitched up on wages, which I think nobody's saying you've gone excessive on wages at all, but at least this time money has been invested in the squad.
I think there's a bit of mitigation in that. Obviously we've had tough fixtures. We was disrupted pre-season with COVID. We lost our best player. He's having to gel it all together quite quickly, and as we know, it's ruthless. But at the same time, I don't think anyone really likes what they've seen so far. And tactically, we went to Man City in the second game of the season, played 4-3-3. And some of the lineups have been quite baffling so far, I have to say.
Yeah, I definitely want to come back to that. Sean, any concerns on your lot defensively at the moment? We think at the time of recording, we've probably got Pickford, Coleman, Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin, all going to be probably out to after the international break, or if not, perhaps slightly back before. Any concerns at the moment with obviously Begovic playing in goal and no orthodox right back basically in the short term?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think even with a full strength team, we've been looking all right. But we just have this. We spoke about it last season. We just got this annoying habit of just out of nowhere giving a team a goal. I mean, in the game against Villa, I was comfortable like I was against Brighton watching it. I didn't feel. I thought we'd started the second half better. And then when they scored, it was a bit like, oh God, where's that come from? Just an individual mistake, and we're punished for it. And with Luca Dean getting on the wrong side of that Poundland Grealish, what's his name, Cash.
Poundland Cash, yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah. So Begovic he's not Pickford. I mean, Pickford's got his faults, but he's been really good for us for a while now. So we're definitely going to miss him, and that's what I mean. I think it's things like that will give Norwich some encouragement. Like I say, we're always liable to throw in an individual error, and that's why I just don't see us keeping a clean sheet at the minute with no Pickford, with Coleman being out. Because even with them, think we've only kept one clean sheet against Brighton. So yeah, I definitely think there's a goal or two there for Norwich at the weekend for sure.
What would you say to people who were thinking of going Begovic as the second keeper, not as a first choice, but now knowing that he's going to get minutes for a couple of games, stick him as the 4.0, and I guess you would start him this week if you went with him, depending on who your other keeper is.
Yeah, I just can't say. I just can't see us keeping a clean sheet against Norwich. I think if we're going to win, we'd have to score 2 or 3. I just can't. So I don't think there's any point to it. Because like I said, the next game is Manchester United. So,
were you benching for that if you went for it? I just think at the moment, those who are wild card in now, probably nearly all of them will have one of Begovic or Ben Foster. I guess Ben Foster looks like he's probably going to hold the shirt for longer, possibly. But I imagine most people will be thinking going one or the other. And I'd spoke to you about it in pre-season in terms of you think Begovic can put the pressure on. You were like, no, and I'm in agreement on reflecting on that now as well. But you would walk into an immediately attractive fixture, but you think probably no clean sheet. So, Mark, if you're going to score at Goodison, who's going to score? It's obvious, isn't it? There's only one player will score.
One person. Yeah, I heard you say that. I mean, yeah, basically. I mean, he's the only one who yeah, I mean, he's looked isolated really in this new formation we've been playing. But obviously, you know, like you say, he's on penalties, and you put him through 1-on-1. You fancy him, so it's just whether obviously they can find a ball to feed through or whatever. But
I said on Monday's podcast that basically every goal he scores is the same. He's always a through ball. He's always trying to play on the shoulder, despite the fact he's not got electric pace or anything. He's always ready to go. He play on the shoulder. He wants to see the back of players' shirts and goes in behind. I'm not convinced against Everton to be able to do that. Do you have a pace problem at the back, Sean?
Not unless Keane and Mina play together. But even when they have, they're pretty astute at where to position themselves. But you know, Michael Keane's just prone to doing bizarre stuff. So that's what I mean. I think with the issues that we've got, Godfrey's almost certainly gonna.
But he'll have to play right back. He'll have to play right back at the moment. What he Godfrey?
Yeah, I mean, we could.
It probably is Keane and Mina.
We could play. We could play. You could play Holgate there. It depends what It depends how Rafa thinks Godfrey did. Because he's only just come back from injury himself. So, but of course we've got we're recording this before the game tonight, so a lot will depend whether Holgate he might have to play tonight, which then means that he doesn't play the weekend.
Well, he might need to play at QPR to get the minutes in him.
Yeah.
As well as a different way of looking at. So I'm not sure that would give us necessarily a clue one way or the other. It's interesting that the partnership you probably highlighted that might be a problem. That probably will be the partnership because Pookie off the back of Keane, yeah, I can see that. Not off Mina though, I don't think.
No, definitely. If he plays in and around Michael Keane, there's opportunities there for him because, like you said, he has a habit of switching off and not picking people up. And normally, it's in the air, but he is liable to, let someone run off him every now and then. And so Pookie, I can definitely see Pookie, Norwich getting a goal, but it wouldn't surprise me if it ended up being, Pookie that scores it. And we get caught in possession up the pitch type of thing. They turn it over, play him in behind Keane, and boom, goal for Norwich.
The thing is, though, Mark, obviously the primary source of that pass has been Emi Buendia for so long. It's obviously now gone. I know it was your new holding midfielder, Norman, who assisted Pookie at the weekend. But generally speaking, in phases where you've got the ball, who is going to release Pookie now? Who's the player who you think is going to play that pass?
Well, that is the thing. I mean, because it's not just Buendia, but obviously Stiepermann we had in our first promotion, and at the early part of the Premier League season 2 years ago, he started, didn't he? And he was the sort of the number 10 who was feeding Pookie. Now it would probably, I guess, Gilmore if he can find a pass and he's sort of playing a little bit further forward, but they're still trying to obviously find that find that role for him where we can get the best out of him, because we've certainly not seen it so far. Gilmour obviously had to sit deep until we signed Norman. He looked all right. He came off early, Norman, at the weekend. But yeah, he's our sort of anchor man, if you like. Now he'll sit deepest, and he's not someone we've needed, and we just need him to get up to speed sooner rather than later. But yeah, it would be Gilmour. In the 4-3-3 we're playing at the moment, there's no place for Todd Cantwell because, I mean, it just doesn't really work for him. But there's a sort of a call really just to go back to what he's always played, 4-2-3-1. I think that
why does it not work for Cantwell? Just elaborate on that, mate.
Well, because we've signed, what I think we're going to end up playing is Rashika on the right of the attack and Zolis on the left of the attack. So sort of two pacey wingers to get the best out of them. And it would be Sargent or Pookie down the middle. Although Sargent played wide at the weekend, I think I wouldn't say Pookie's nailed. Certainly is.
Wow,
I think at the moment
that's a big that will prick people's ears. He's saying that, mate.
Yeah, definitely. I think at the moment, like if you were to ask me would he start the weekend, I'd say yeah, definitely. But Sargent, I think as soon as he gets up to speed, he can play down the middle. So he's got obviously some serious competition. So all it really takes is Rashika and Zolis to actually sort of nail down the wide berths, and then it could be Sargent or Pookie down the middle, assuming we stay the 4-3-3. That's not my preferred formation. I think we should go back to 4-2-3-1.
Cantwell at 10.
Cantwell at 10, yeah. Absolutely.
That's what most people, I just think, will naturally, even those who haven't watched you most, would think Cantwell's got to be the one to take over the creative responsibility now Buendia's gone, surely.
Absolutely, yeah. He's been on the bench, hasn't he? I mean, last sort of 2 games, and he when he has played, he hasn't looked great, Cantwell. But yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, we'd have Cantwell in the team, and he would be the main man, the main sort of orchestrator of all these balls through to Pookie. And he has assisted Pookie before. They obviously played together long enough now to know each other's game. So yeah, that was my assumption really going into the season, that Cantwell would be, now the main creator.
I think he'll stick with a 3. I think part of the problem, he might have backed himself into a corner here a little bit. I mean, a 3 in midfield. Because obviously, if he goes to a 4-2-3-1, presumably the 2 is one's definitely going to be Gilmour, and I'm guessing the other would have to be Norman in terms of the protection, even more so in the 2, which means whams to Lees Mello, whams to McLean, whams to Rupp. I keep hearing about this Placheta fella. I don't even know what position he plays yet, Mark. Can you fill me in on that?
Placheta's Polish international, is a winger, but he's got long COVID. He's not been in the matchday squad so far this season, so a lot of promise around him, but he's not going to be starting anytime soon. Rupp really is someone who might come in tactically now and again and do a sort of a midfield defensive job, but now we've got Norman. I wouldn't expect Rupp to be playing much. And then really it's probably going to be Lees Malou, Cantwell, or McLean.
Thoughts on Lees Mello, what you've seen so far?
He offers a bit more physicality to him. He's a tall player. He's sort of not scared to put the boot in it and throw himself about a little bit. Drifted in and out of games a little bit, but yeah, he's okay. He's certainly someone who's going to be in and around the first team squad. Might dip in and out depending what sort of tactics we play, as I say.
Okay. Sean, Luca Dean got a bit of stick at the weekend, and I think he's getting a lot of angry reactions from FPL managers who had warned at the start of the season is a great pick, but it'd be very difficult to get rid of because your fixtures keep rolling. You certainly wouldn't be moving on now. What would you advise to people who are sitting there currently frustrated at owning Luca Dean?
I'd keep him for the Norwich game. If you've already got him, then I could end up being one good night. So I think you keep him. He's still creating chances. He's still getting in the right positions. It's just not, the quality is just not quite there like it normally is. He's just been disappointing. I mean, he's sort of been taken off a lot of set pieces now, which is not what you want to see. Obviously, as an owner, so that I was looking at something only this morning on Twitter about chances created from players from the other 14 clubs in the league, and there's only about 5 or 6 players who have created more chances than him. But I think it was 10 chances he created, but 6 of them are from set pieces. So with him now not really being involved in them, Gray and Townsend are taking them, it lessens the chances of getting a return. Like I can't see us keep the clean sheet, but obviously we could. So I think you keep him for the Norwich game, but then I had him at the start of the season, but I moved him on a couple of weeks ago, and that would be, you know, what I'd advise other people to do. I think there's too many other options around his price point. And then when our fixtures sort of swing back around to this type of run again in a few months, maybe he will have found his form again.
Yeah, the only thing is, beyond Manchester United, it's then 3 out of 4 at home, which is West Ham is tough. Then it's Watford, Wolves away, and Tottenham at home. There's certainly an unpredictability about my team at the moment, but there's another 3 from 4 home games. And if I said to you, look, what do you want from those 3 home games? You'd probably say to me, I want 7 points from them, James. And you'd want something from Wolves away as well. So not that bad. I know what you're saying definitely about the further fixture run as well. There's a real swing for Everton from game week 19 to game week 26, which is something we'll really be talking about over the winter period. I'm fairly certain of that. But you would say sell generally, Sean, after this weekend.
Yeah, I would definitely. I mean, like I say, Chelsea have got a great run coming up. They're playing really well, aren't they? And there's I know there's rotation threat around Chelsea, but the likes of Rudiger's a similar price. So there's for me, that's who you go for.
Yeah, I think with Luca Dean, it's always the dream of the 15-pointer or so, isn't it? But you've got people like Rudiger and Thiago Silva provided that last week if you own. So where do you stand, Sean, on the Demarai Townsend Gray debate?
Well, I would have said just pick any one of the 3 and go with them. But now because of the injury situation, I just think it's not a good time to be owning Everton assets till Richie or Dom come back. I really would. My advice would just be any Everton asset you have, keep for this game, but then move on after that.
Yeah, I think again though there will potentially be ones looking obviously at the 1 week punt with a potential wildcard 7. I think for me, it would be Gray this week, likely to play in a more central role. I think we saw Townsend and Wobie basically play the wide positions at Villa. Gray's the one who's probably going to get closest to Rondon, isn't he?
Yeah, he will, but of course, Townsend's quality across is really good, and Rondon's good in the air. So we could easily get a goal from a Rondon header off a Townsend cross. So I would pick Gray out the 3, just because I think he looks so threatening when he goes forward, makes the right runs, gets in and around the box, has proven he can score goals. But yeah, that would be my preference for a 1 week punt. I'd go Demarai Gray.
And longer term, if you were looking to hold one of those 3 players, let's say you had to leave one of them there dead, hypothetically, for the next 10 game weeks or so, would that opinion still be the same, or would you think all Decorey's consistency?
No, I mean I'd say Gray, but there's not much in it. Doucouré's been the player that I hope we were signing when we got him from Watford. He's been playing exactly, like he was when I saw him for them. Carlo had turned him into a sort of defensive midfielder, which clearly didn't suit his game. And now we're just seeing a more free running Doucouré, and he's had opportunities in every game we played this season. £5.5 million. Who's his sort of competition around that price point? It's the likes of Odegaard, isn't it? And, Conor Gallagher,
Milo Rashica, Todd Cantwell.
So yeah. So he's a good. I think you can't go wrong with Gray, Townsend, or Doucouré at that sort of price point. But my big caveat is obviously the injuries and stuff. It's not. I don't think it's a good time to be owning an Everton asset just for the next sort of 2 or 3 weeks.
I'm in full agreement with you, Sean. I would say though, if I had wildcard game week 7 penciled in, probably in my planning, I'd have been thinking I'm going to an Everton player in game week 6 for 1 week punt. That's probably what I'd have been looking at. But I agree, there's a case to be made now. If you were going to do that, I mean, would you rather go with a Gray this weekend as a 1 week punt, or would you rather go, say, with Ismaila Sarr at home to Newcastle? I think at this stage, you'd probably go with Sarr, for example.
I would go with,
at this stage.
I would go with Sarr.
Yeah, I'm probably in agreement with that. I think Doucouré would be exciting from an FPL perspective more if we could get him back in that 10 position where Allen and Gomez both played behind him and he was starting from a higher base point. We know he's allowed to go and run and push on and break through anyway because of Allen's protection. But if he started at that higher point, that would make him a lot more attractive. Do you expect the lineup to be similar to what we saw at Villa, Sean?
Yeah, I think the starting 11 will be the same starting 11 that played against Villa, as long as we didn't pick up any injuries, tonight in anyone that might have played in that game. But I don't anticipate there'll be too many players playing against QPR that featured against Villa. So I think he'll try and keep the same team, and then it gives him a few days to try to work with that team then, because by all accounts, the lads pulled sort of out of training really late on in the week. So he was sort of thrown in it up against it for the Villa game. So didn't have much time to prepare. So I think he'll be looking to get the game against QPR done and dusted, and then work with them a bit on the training ground, which hopefully will give us a better chance of getting a positive result.
And Mark, as you said, predicting your team at the moment's tough work. Can you try and predict what the back line will be? I think we know 3 of the names, but one of the centre backs at the moment is slightly okey cokey. What's going on?
Yeah, really tricky to predict. Yeah, I mean, not just this week, but going forward as well. If the results don't go their way in the next 2 away games at Everton and Burnley, then yeah, I mean, it really could chop and change. So anyone buying, not that I imagine anyone would, specifically, unless it's a wild card. But yeah, it would be probably Aaron's right back, Williams left back. It'd be Crow in goal. Yeah, Kabak now has been thrown in. You'd expecting him. He was a bit rusty at the weekend, but you'd expect him to stay in. And then probably now it would be one of Gibson on Bamadelli and Hanley. Hanley probably will get the nod by virtue of the fact that he's got some experience. The problem is if you play on Bamadelli with Kabak, then you look at that young back 4 again, and that's part of the problem we had last time.
That's not going to be a pairing.
No,
I can't see that. It'll be one or the other, and it will be at least one of Gibson and Hanley at least. Yeah.
I think Gibson will get a chance at some point. It might not be this week. They might give Hanley a chance to put it right, because Hanley had actually started the season better than Gibson. But so I wasn't surprised as such to see Gibson come out of the team. But Hanley wasn't great at the weekend at all. So he needs to improve dramatically. Otherwise, now there are options on the bench. Bamadelli didn't do particularly, didn't do badly at Arsenal. He done all right, actually. And he done well for Ireland in the international break. I think he'll get game time throughout the season. For people who've got him in their squad just to sit on the bench, I can't imagine you'd have too many fires.
He's going to sit third every week, isn't he?
Yeah, that's fine. And there'll probably come a time a bit like Mitchell from Palace last year, where now and again he might pick up, might surprise you, and he might, if there's COVID outbreak,
or he might not.
Yeah, he might not. He might end up with minus, mightn't he? But yeah, there could be a surprise, some surprise points on the bench at some time or another where you forget about him and he's actually there.
If you're on wildcard, have you used yours, Mark?
No.
No.
Probably game week 8, I reckon I'll use mine.
Okay, so soon. So are you intending to get a Norwich player on this wild card? And I asked that kind of specifically with Brandon Williams in mind.
No, I don't think so. Because I think partly we'll be halfway through this sort of supposedly good run by that point. But then also I think, there are a couple of other sort of 4.0 options, aren't there? Once you're not 4.0, Livramento is he now 4.1 or 4.2?
Livramento's price is going to keep going. I don't think
that's
Southampton have got a brilliant fixture run coming up as well. So, I mean, there's going to be investment there for him, definitely.
Yeah, whereas Williams' price might not rise at all, mightn't it? So, if you really had to scrape the pennies, then you could get Williams.
You have got a really good run basically up to game week 14, 15 though, haven't you?
Yeah.
Bar obviously the two hardest fixtures over that spell on paper are this weekend Everton, a depleted Everton as we've discussed, and Chelsea away in game week 9. Other than that, they're good fixtures, mate.
Well, yeah, they are. And we need to get some points on the board pretty sharpish, don't we? Williams, like I say, in the home games, he's not been great at all, but you give him the benefit of the doubt, the fact that he's just sort of changed clubs and he's getting to know his teammates and the formation and, playing every week rather than sort of dropping in and out. But you've got to remember, Giannoulis is a full Greek international who's...
Well, that's what I was going to say.
On the bench. Roma, your mate Mourinho tried to sign him on the
He's not my fucking mate. I'll cut you off, mate.
He tried to sign him on the last day of the transfer window at Roma, £15 million. So
what does he know? Exactly.
Well, yeah, exactly.
That tells me Giannoulis must be shit, mate. That's what it tells me. People on a serious, people want to know that'll be one of the questions. Brandon Williams, is he nailed?
Yeah.
The answer is we're not sure, right?
No. At the moment, he's got the shirt, and
his first choice.
Things could turn pretty quickly, and that's why I said, you remember the last time I was on, quite surprised that we'd obviously gone in for him. In hindsight, it's good because juniors weren't great at Man City, but then no one's been, playing well, sort of 2 games in a row at the moment. So expect a lot of chopping and changing up to the point where we actually win a game probably, and then the team might settle down a little bit.
All right, go on and predict the centre backs just briefly for Saturday.
Back and Hanley.
Okay, so that's the same as what played Watford, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, and do you think Todd Campbell will come back in?
Yeah, possibly. I wouldn't put my house on it, put it that way. But I think there probably will be 1 or 2 changes. Yeah. So
and what would you say to Pookie owners?
I would say at the moment, like he's good value. He's scored twice already, and to be mindful though that that if the goals do dry up, that there's someone waiting in the wings to sort of nail down that position. So at the moment it's okay. But
Josh Sargent, as you said, played on the right of him, but primarily is a central forward as well. Okay, one to watch. Sean, one final question for you, mate. James Rodriguez. Is he not just a short-term solution with Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin out? Stick him in the team, play him behind Rondon.
There's every chance by the weekend he won't be an Everton player anymore.
Oh wow! Right, okay.
So the door is about as closed as it could possibly be, I think, with James. I think there's obviously a little bit of history between him and Rafa from when he took over from Ancelotti at Real Madrid. And I just think Rafa's looked at it and we're desperate to get some players out the door. And with his injury record, 200 grand a week.
Yeah.
For as good as he is, it is a bit of a no-brainer to move him on, or at least try to move him on. So I completely get why the club have looked at it at that way. But above all this, he doesn't want to be at the club anymore. That's very, very clear. We spoke about it when we signed him. I don't think there's too many people, think anything different. He come because Carlo wanted him and his relationship with Ancelotti, and he knew he was going to play. He knew he was going to build a team around him, and he knew he'd get certain privileges from Carlo that he wouldn't get, anywhere else. So he's not gonna.
So are they working on a mutual termination then? Is that what they're?
But no, there's a club out in Al Rayyan.
Oh, in the Middle East, yeah.
He's in negotiations with. I'm not completely confident that they'll come to an agreement, because I just think he's on that much money. He'll there's every chance
I don't think they're sure, Sean.
Well,
and I don't know if they have to abide by things like FFP either, mate.
Yeah. It's just it's all the other stuff that comes with it, with image rights and everything, and then hopefully for everyone concerned, I think it's just best if he moves on. It's just he was negotiating with a few people before the windows were shutting a few weeks back, and then there's always stumbling blocks seem to come out of nowhere with him and his agent. So, but yeah, he doesn't want to be there. The club are happy for him to go. So I just hope these negotiations come to an agreement, and that's that. And it's a pity that we'll never get to see him play live. My son jokingly said that to me about 8 months ago. He said, "You do realise we'll never get to see him live. We'll something will happen and he'll leave." And it sort of feels like it's fated that we'll never get to see him play live. So it looks like that's going to be the case, which is, like I say, it's a shame because he's a wonderful, wonderful footballer.
What's the first memory, if he does go, what's the first thing you think of his spell at Everton?
Oh, his goal against West Brom.
Okay. I really thought you was going to say the assist in front of the cop.
No. For me, I mean, obviously that was like the highlight of his time at Everton. But I'd watched that many James Rodriguez clips because I was really buzzing that we were signing him, and seeing a lot of his goals. And I remember as soon as he got the ball on his left foot against West Brom,
he's going in.
I just pictured exactly what he was going to do and where it was going, and yeah, he executed it. And I thought, yeah, he's going to be, when he's fit, he's going to be class for us. And I think of what he was. His returns are there. You have a look at his record. He done, when he was on pitch, he done well, and yet that assist. There's no other Everton player would have played that ball into Richarlison in the derby.
Yeah, I don't think if he did play, I don't suppose Rondon would be making that run this coming Saturday anyway.
He'd still, he certainly
Timu Pukki would, man.
Would he? Yeah.
Pukki would have loved playing with Rodriguez. As soon as Rodriguez got the ball, he'd been on the shoulder, boom, off. Yeah. Guys, really enjoyed that. Thanks so much. Before we let you go, Sean, prediction for the game is Saturday, isn't it? Prediction for the game.
Yeah, I am 1-1.
That's one of them which gets the clash of the correspondence. Oh, definitely. Go on, Mark.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that Sean's saying that, actually. I think it would be a 2-0 game all day long, but because Richarlison and DCL are out, then I'll say 1-0. I'll say much improved from us, but I think we'll fall short like we did at Arsenal, and we'll have to wait a bit longer to get some points on the board.
I tipped you to win last week, Mark, and I was quite bullish about it as well. I'm gonna side with Sean. It's a bit weird that you're predicting your team to lose, Mark, and actually I'm gonna go with Sean and say 1-1. I just think that the lack of goal scoring in that Everton team at the moment is a bit of a concern. And if you don't score early and it drags on, the game could become a little bit of a problem. We've highlighted that Pukki off Michael Keane, one moment, there could be something there, actually. So, yeah, I didn't expect to, but speaking to you both, I'm going to go 1-1 as well. That's not an alarming analysis on you, Sean. I just think key players injured at the moment, mate, and you need them back. And Mark, you got to get something soon, mate. Kind of want you to as well.
That's the problem, isn't it? Because it's the reverse of 2 years ago where we started okay and fell. Now it's a case of by the time we're, looking half decent, we might be down already. So yeah, it needs to happen.
There are teams already writing you off. To be honest, I mean, if Chelsea away in game week 9, you couldn't see anything at the moment. If you haven't picked anything up before then that begins to look dark. And then it's not a case then of people saying, "Oh, they're definitely going down." You'll have people giving you, will they beat Derby's points total and shit like that, right? Uh-huh. You don't want that sort of thing coming up. But then you've got 5 brilliant fixtures after that, which you could fix it in. So I certainly wouldn't be writing you off yet. But I think for me, like, get Cantwell back in the team. Pukki needs a creative player. You might need to be a little bit more ambitious. I don't think removing the manager is necessarily going to be the answer, but it might become a necessity. If the longer it stays at 0 every week, the probability of that increases. Unfortunately. Sean, where can everyone follow you on Twitter, my friend?
At Spirit_Blues.
And for yourself, Mark?
FP_Badger.
Good luck to both of you this weekend and for the rest of the season, guys. I'll be streaming on YouTube tomorrow. I believe it's going to be 3 p.m. UK time now. The audio will follow shortly after that. And again, ahead of the deadline on Saturday morning. So I'll be streaming 10 a.m. UK time on Saturday. Next week's clash of the correspondents is Tottenham versus Aston Villa with Ricky Saunders and Lee Jackson. Yes, I penciled in the Tottenham correspondent on Clash of the Correspondents straight after the North London derby. I must need my head examined. Thanks again to Sean and Mark. Cue music, please, man child.